So say I'm a bird and I just decide like, you know what? I think there's a really good nest over here and I'm not going to fly south this winter. Or you're a bear and you're like, I feel really powered up. I am not going to hibernate this winter. I'm actually going to party all winter long and it's going to be awesome. That human beings are the only species on this planet that actually have the ability to choose what we do and what we don't do. You know, genetically, we certainly have predispositions to certain things. So the whatever genes you have flowing through your body are things that you certainly have to deal with. There's reading that I've done so much over time, and there was just a really great quote by Stephen Covey. He has 7 Healthy Habits book, and I'm actually reading one called The 8th Habit now. And there was a quote in that book that he posted and wrote extensively about that says, and I want to make sure I get this right, so I wanted to make sure I looked at, there is between the stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose a response. And in those choices lies one's growth and happiness. And I think that it takes some time for you to really think about those words and really think about the meaning that, again, we are the only species on this planet that can choose what we do and what we don't do. And genetically, again, there may be predispositions that you have to deal with. And the reason that I'm saying this is because a lot of times I work with people and I work with clients. So, you know, whether they have family that has diabetes or they have thyroid problems or they have arthritis, that yes, you can't choose necessarily whether you're predisposed to that or not. That is what it is. So there's a genetic component. The choice lies with how you deal with that information. Do you choose to ignore it? Or do you choose to accept it and make a choice to do something about it? Because a lot of times it's easier. Now, this is like the truth serum, and this is the things that people don't always want to hear. But the way that if you are able to get that information and choose to be proactive is where you may avoid actually having the true diagnosis or the symptoms associated with that. So if, again, you are more likely to, have diabetes, then you are choosing to take responsibility and be accountable to a healthy exercise and diet. And that is where your response is going to be better. Understand what I'm saying? So the stimulus is knowing information and the response is here. What happens in that space in between that? And what determines that decision that is ultimately here? Now, over time, I feel like it's very easy for us to feel like we lose that ability to choose because of conditions that we have in our life. So there are certainly things that we cannot fully control. The medical status of all of these things that float through the air, your finances being, related to how your income status is. But ultimately, those things are going to influence the decisions that you make. There's always a choice. There's always a decision to be made. And what is influencing that to you? Are you conditioned to decide, or are you conditioned to kind of go along with what you think you have no choice or power over? Or are you taking responsibility? And even in this book, he wrote your response to that stimulus ability puts you more in control. Now, whether that makes you feel better or worse is, I think, where people have a hard time with that. Like, if you take ownership of that, that means that part of that fault is yours, meaning like, oh, I knew that I was predisposed to being a diabetic or that I might have symptoms of severe arthritis as I get older, but you really didn't choose. You kind of said that was almost like your crutch, and you didn't put the work into having a better response. So this can be a very difficult thing because life is hard as it is, and it's just sometimes easier to put things on the back burner and put the blame in another area on someone else, on something that's intangible, either politics or the stock market or whatever it is, like you want to just put that blame and not have to take that responsibility for really asking yourself the hard questions. Like, did you really have some control and you chose not to accept it? Or did you choose not to implement a strategy because it was harder? whatever those circumstances are, don't beat yourself up about it. You know, when you think about past choices you've made, you can still make a situation better by making better choices based on whatever goal you have. You don't want to beat yourself up about that. And this is not an exercise where you're supposed to look at yourself and be like, yeah, I'm so crappy, because again, that is me. I didn't take it seriously. That's not the point. The point is, from this point on, recognizing something happens and there is a response. You hit your finger with a hammer really hard, it's going to hurt. And in that space in between, you know, was there anything that you can really do? Because that's more of an instinctual thing. But what did you do after that? I bet you didn't do it again. So you were able to choose the next time to maybe either be a little bit more accurate, take your time, or whatever. So those decisions, again, even if they're a reaction, they can still shape a better outcome for the next time. So our journey for our health is always going to be an up and down road. And it's really just trying to make decisions and taking control over your health. You do have control over many things, and you want to be able to be in the driver's seat. So by choosing and understanding you do have more power all the time, you always have a choice. You have to take responsibility for that and implement things that put you on a better health path with a better outcome, versus always feeling the subject to everything else that goes wrong and feeling like you have no power to change it, because that ultimately is going to cause less activity, depression, more onset of weight, less energy. Your relationships will suffer. Everything suffers when you realize you feel like you don't have control, because you do. So think about that. Remember, I'm going to finish with that quote because it's just so good. Between the stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our power to choose a response. And in those choices lies growth and happiness. I wish you growth and happiness. Post your comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.